After a delayed start, voting in Nigeria's presidential election is drawing to a close across the country. It's the first chance Africa's most populous nation has had to see a transfer of power between democratically elected leaders. But as threatened, the process has been marred by violence. Polling day began with a petrol tanker being aimed at the country's electoral headquarters in the capital, Abuja. However, the truck didn't explode. Well, Al Jazeera's Andrew Simmons is in Lagos. Before we come to that petrol tanker attack, Andrew, we're getting reports of 7 policemen having been shot in central Nigeria. Can you tell us the latest on that?
Well, all we know at this stage in Karu, that's in central Nigeria, 7 policemen were killed. That was late last night, in the early hours of this morning. Whether this is connected with the election, we don't know at this stage. But the polls have now officially closed. They'll be extended in many areas, partly because of violence, particularly in the north and in the south, and in some parts of Abuja, extensions also because they were very late in starting, apparently because ballot papers hadn't arrived. So the same issues are kicking around as the state elections, which I covered last weekend. I was down in Port Harcourt, where I saw a lot of ballot rigging, a lot of fixing, a lot of fraud. However, I don't think it's on the scale it was in the state elections. It's too soon to say, but these elections are drawing to a close. The President Olusegun Obasanjo is committed, he says, to peace. He's asked for calm. He's described these elections as not perfect. Well, that certainly is the case. But a lot of Nigerians we've been speaking to are moderate. They're prepared to play along with this. They understand they need stability. Oil prices have risen today because of the doubt about Nigeria in the future. So there is this big feeling that there needs to be stability, and the President feels that this will win over at the end of the day. As for the inquest afterwards, as for the court cases that are bound to occur, challenges to the results, which are due on Monday, well, we'll see what happens there, but that's the situation at the moment.
We'll have to wait for those results until Monday, Andrew. But let's talk about this audacious attempt to target the Electoral Commission in Abuja. Any suspects?
Well, this was before polling started, and what happened was this, and if you could look at some pictures, a petrol tanker was driven right up to the INEC headquarters, that's the Independent National Electoral Commission, which has been in charge of this whole election process. And somebody jammed the accelerator on, the tanker careered towards the headquarters. It also had gas canisters on board, and it hit a lamppost or a telegraph pole, and so its path was blocked. So the whole thing was botched, but it was an audacious attempt. Excuse me.
Andrew, you've been gauging opinion on the streets of Lagos, and our colleague Mike Hanna has also been travelling around the country. Which of the candidates do you feel has got a lead in the election?
Umaru Yar'Adua, the presidential candidate, the outgoing president's candidate, the chosen one, certainly has the best chances, it would seem. And General Buhari, excuse me, from the ANPP, is also a favourite. Now, he's got a military background, but he's very favoured with the people. Then the third would be Atiku Abubakar. Now, he's the vice president, and he was up on corruption charges and only entered the race at a late stage because he was barred from entering by the Electoral Commission.
Well, we shall continue to watch what happens over the next few days. Andrew Simmons in Lagos, thank you. More than 200 people have died after 4 days of heavy fighting on the streets of Somalia's capital, and there's little sign of a break in the hostilities. John Terrett now reports on the increasing strain for hospitals and medical staff as the numbers of injured rise.
Medina Hospital, Mogadishu. There are so many casualties from the latest street battles here that patients are being cared for in corridors or makeshift wards, patched up as best the doctors and nurses can, given limited time and resources.
The situation of the hospital is now, it's overcrowded, it's overwhelming. We have erected tents to accommodate some of the patients.
Even babies are not immune to the fighting. This child's mother says she and her son were in their house when a mortar round fell. My boy was injured together with my grandmother and my aunt, she says. The faces of the young children are etched with fear and confusion, and all the doctors can do is work as fast as possible to keep them alive.